Good evening. You're flying with Pod Squadron podcast. All wings report in, and this is Andy, Pod Job standing by.
This is Tracy, Pod Tracer, standing by with my bling.
Oh, yes, sorry, Tracy. Yes. Children of a Lesser Pod, standing by.
All ships to attack formation. Mission objectives to talk about Star Wars in movies, streaming, animation, books, themed experiences, and your art and inspiration from the galaxy far, far away. Today's flight plan includes Andor Season 2, Episode 10 through 12. And for all of you out there, all comm channels are open. Follow us on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram. Find us on Twitch and YouTube. Like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you know when we have new content. But first, I'll be your squad leader for today. I am Andy Lowe, a.k.a. the Chinese Pirate, director, storyteller, puppeteer, performer, and fight choreographer. On my wing is Tracy.
Hi, I'm Tracy. Very exhausted. I got in very late from New York last night, but had an amazing time with the family. And I'm going to take my blingy ring off right now because it's very silicone-y and not very comfortable. But me and several 13-year-old girls in New York have these now, so I feel really cool.
Excellent. And on my other wing is Jason.
It is me. I do not have a bling ring. I was looking for something that was shiny and flashing too, but no, alas. But yes.
Flash your pearly whites.
Oh, they ain't that pearly. So, but but yes, it's me. Hey, hi, everyone. Woo!
And we have Rodney on the flight deck because, of course, we are just one squad in this fleet. We're part of the Geekish Network. That's right here on YouTube and Facebook. S-Foils to attack position. We are going in. Hopefully, Lexi will join us soon because we've all got a lot to talk about. We're going to jump right into Andor Season 2, the finale, episodes 10 through 12. Yeah. First impressions from you guys.
I'm just sad it's over. It was so good. So good. And I love that it led right into Rogue One, like within like a day or two of Rogue One. And I'm just going to miss it because it was one of the highest quality Star Wars shows that they've made, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was just saying to Rodney before we came on, probably the best thing Star Wars wise since Disney acquired it. So yeah, very good. Sad to see it go, but yes, it did lead into Rogue One, and he was wearing the same clothes. So good job, Diego. So
That must have been when you guys were talking about when I went to get another straw and pee.
yeah, yes. Because I was like on my treadmill when I was watching, because I'm like, well, if I'm going to stand here for 3 hours, I'm like, I'm going to get some steps in. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm going to watch Rogue One. And then sure enough, I'm like, good job, everyone. So,
Yeah, I agree. Just the craftsmanship on this show was just phenomenal from the top to bottom. I cannot honestly. I mean, if I didn't have such affection for the original, films, I would say this is honestly just on a pure craft level. This is probably the best in the franchise, honestly. The writing is prescient and has something to say. The detail, the way that it is really targeted not really targeted for Star Wars fans, and is really an analysis of history, um, but is still so very true to all of this, fictional Star Wars lore, that many of us are so familiar with. And with it doesn't take away from the space wizards and the laser swords, um, because it's like that's all out there. But this is not about, the thrilling heroics. This is about, the small battles, the small skirmishes, and what is sacrificed and what is lost. Um, yeah,
How hundreds of people and hundreds of moments all lead to one moment,
yeah.
right?
I mean, another great thing about this arc too is that, they really do. Well, I mean, I guess we got the hint of this in the last arc, I guess, right? But really kind of leaning into this idea of the forces out there. There are believers, and there are many who would look at Cassian as being, an object of destiny, right? And he is hurtling towards that, which, it's and we are going to jump right into spoiler talk. So if you haven't seen this, where have you been this whole week? But even just like, that last line from K2SO where he, it's kind of a wink to the audience, like it's it's so much better when I know where we're going, which is like,
that was him writing that in, going like, and I know how this is gonna end.
I
It's
mean,
like,
like every shot in that last montage, it's like that was very clear for them. Everything felt so intentional.
yeah.
Um, yeah. How about you, Rodney? Do you want to chime in any general impressions?
I think one of the things that really, really stood out to me was, and I was talking about this again in the pre-show too, is that I actually went back and watched a lot of like season 1 episodes as well in the rewatch, because there were so many callbacks, so many payoffs, and each line had multiple meanings. So I one, it definitely is the best thing that Disney has done. And two,
Even more than Mandalorian, you guys think so?
I think so. Yeah. Just like the overall breadth of it. I'm talking like Mando definitely had some really high highs, but just like the consistency between like, season 1 to season 2, and just like the arcs. And so the how do I say that? And I said this in my notes too, just like the multi-layered quality of all the themes, the arcs, the lines, on multiple rewatches, and this level of discourse over Star Wars property is just, I mean, online to us to everything is treating it like a piece of art, not just like a fairy tale fantasy, right? And that to me is just a major feat.
And and that is not to take anything away from Mandalorian or even the original trilogy, or I mean, honestly, there are some. I mean, you guys have heard me rave about some of the arcs in Clone Wars, right? Like, I mean, there is some fantastic storytelling, but I mean, yeah, I think there's something to be said for the consistency, and also like, they swung for Star Wars truly targeted for adults, right? So there's a level of ambition that colors my assessment, right? It's like, you know, Baby Yoda appearing, that's a stroke of brilliance. But I mean, yeah, that's definitely targeted to appeal, on a certain level.
To me,
I mean, to me as well. I mean, but
Mando sells better toys, but Andor is the better show. I
yeah.
mean, and I have friends who aren't Star Wars people or just passerby Star Wars people and swear by the quality of the show and going like I was fully invested, even though they had no clue what was going on or what it was leading to. So they just liked it. So
Well,
It's
and that's the thing too, right? Like these are not new themes to Star Wars, right? I mean, George Lucas has many times been quoted about how I mean, there's clearly coding in the Empire, as space Nazis there. There is references to the Vietnam War. There's, that idea of one man's terrorist is another person's rebel. I mean, that's been there from the very beginning. But really kind of trying to needle in on, a much more mature look at those same themes, right?
yeah.
Um, so I'm going to do the same thing that I've been doing with the past arcs. I'm not really going to go show beat by show beat. We'll probably come back to some of those things because honestly, there's like filmmaking things that I definitely want us to get into, because and that's stuff that aren't like character specific. But I want to go by character. Let's talk about Luthen's arc for this for this first, right? We go from, I mean, honestly, Luthen is taken out pretty quickly, right? It's basically, um he gets the big bell, he goes to meet Lonnie, he finds out about the Death Star, and he shuts down the operation and gets offed. And then we get into his backstory with Clea. um but there is so much poeticism even in that little bit of story for him. It's something that I even just thought about of he comes into contact with Lonnie within the first 5-10 minutes of the episode, has the clandestine meeting in the on the park bench, classic spy thriller thing. Um and
could
he
not be more out in the open, by the way.
I mean, certainly. But and then of course he takes him out,
inconspicuous. Yeah.
much in the same way that Cassian will do with Tivik, in the opening moments of Rogue One.
What's your question?
Oh, I'm just commenting that like the poeticism of
Oh.
it, right? I mean,
You just sort of stopped talking.
I mean, we're like if we're talking poeticism, like the way that my like theater, the former theater major in me went when like they showed you his backstory and his name was Lear.
yes.
I was like, okay, King Lear, I see you with the anagram. Descent into madness, warring children. I see it. I see it.
Yes,
Yeah.
the Mad King who was left behind by his children, and and also casts out the one who loved him most or who understood him most, right?
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
and that's something I definitely tied into, Clea as his surrogate when he shows up at the door for the rescue, and she says, "It would be you.
Mhm.
Of course,
Would
it's
be.
you." And then of course later in that scene, she calls him out of you left us, you left him, you left us, and it's yeah, it's the classic tragedy.
I thought that in and of itself was so interesting, like with the backstory, it almost the backstory, even though she was Luthen's protege, she really had a mind of her own from the start. And I was kind of thinking, I was like, which one of them is actually Axis if we're thinking about it? I don't know.
I mean,
Um,
I think that's the really cool thing about the relationship they established with those with the flashbacks is that she really is driving it, and he's almost more
yeah.
the facilitator for her rage. Um,
Yeah, she's the someone that he's burning his life for.
yeah,
The first
I think
season
he has
monologue.
his I think he has his own rage. I think he's trying
Like I
to
do.
even though
I
he
mean,
says that, we're playing the long game because we have to lose and lose and lose until we see the point where we can win. He sees her rage and how it matches his own, and he wants to make sure that she's not a flash in the pan and just doesn't get
well,
killed right away. So he's
well,
training
of
her.
course of course he's got his own rage. If he wasn't already angry, he wouldn't have broken protocol and saved her life, right? So like that's established from the get-go. I think it's super interesting. I think it's super interesting the way that it ties into that first season monologue to Lonnie. I'm gonna go back to that because he says, I burned my life, for a sunrise I know I'll never see. And he talks about, for someone, for this person. And at the time you think that it's a hypothetical where he's like, he understands he's doing this for the future of, the citizens. And then you see the backstory with Clea and you realize that it's just as much, it's a father-daughter thing, and he may tell her in that one scene, she says, am I your daughter now? And he goes, when it's convenient, or
yeah.
something to that extent. No, he
But
left
it's
that behind.
but it's also, I mean, like that scene where we first see Sergeant Lear and he's PTSDing on the ship, hiding from the rest of his platoon. The whole rush the Lutz, make it stop. And he's just there drinking himself, and it's like if Cleo wasn't hiding on the ship, if he hadn't have found her, would he have would he have continued, right? Or would he probably have just drank himself to death, or just been another casualty? I mean, ultimately, he decides to desert, go AWOL with this kid, right? And it's
He's the
partially
catalyst for sure.
the guilt of he killed her family, right? He
Yeah,
committed genocide on her planet. Um,
for sure. That's definitely clear from the radio. I mean, she's the catalyst for
mhm.
him personally as a character. And it's I I love the poetry of Luthen's catalyst being a traumatized little brunette. And same for Cassian. Hey, look at that. His sister, the traumatized little brunette, is
Right.
also his, and Bix. Like it's just
I
yeah.
have a
There's
theory
there's
about I have a theory I have a theory about that.
Go for it.
I I think how when Marva took Cassian from the planet, she said that people were coming and they were all going to be killed. I think that he was on Cassian's home planet and that Clea is his sister and she was hiding out in his ship.
Well, except she didn't speak basic though, right? Like young Clea is very eloquent and very, you know, um, right? I mean, and part of that whole idea
Okay, well,
of
that's a good point.
is like Tony Gilroy wanting to explain why is Cassian the first character in Star Wars to have an accent, right?
Well, but then like at the end, in one of the very last shots, it shows him thinking about his sister, and then it goes into like a shot of Clea.
hmm
That was the that was the other reason why I thought that might be the case, but I could totally be wrong.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I had a couple of theories about the whole sister thing, and honestly, what I felt they gave us, um, in terms of not really revisiting the whole sister thing, ultimately, I was so happy to see what they gave us was honestly more satisfying than any of the fan theories or even my own theories that I had. Right. And it's that ultimately, like, the quest for the sister didn't matter after a certain point.
Yeah, a catalyst, not necessarily the end, but a
Mhm.
catalyst.
I mean, and
You
he's
mean you don't buy into the baby Poe Dameron theory? I read that and I
there
thought,
can be more Latinos in
I
Star Wars. They
know,
don't all
right?
have
It's
to
like,
be
no, it
related.
all
We all have to be related. Look, wait, it's not our fault. We have big families.
yeah, no, it's fine. Somehow Poe Dameron returned. So, yes. I just
um
read
let me
that.
other things here. I mean, this is other you know, oh gosh, I lost my place in my notes. Okay, I'm just gonna
Happens to the worst
call
of
out this
us.
one quote that I loved. He says to Clea, all you know now is how much you hate. You bank that, you keep it alive until you know what to do with it. And when I tell you to move, you move.
Oh, that
And this
echo
is,
later.
and of course, in only like two or three scenes before, and he's saying, "No, I'm gonna do the burn. I'm gonna shut down the office. You go. I'll meet you at the place." And he says, "Move," and it's like there's a retroactive like callback
Mhm.
there, which
Yeah,
I thought was like,
I
oh, that's
noticed
really
that.
neat.
I noticed that. Oh yeah, that was fantastic. And I I knew that, I mean, okay, I'll be honest, I expected them to have a better exit plan.
Mm, sure.
Like, they didn't have that place rigged. Come on. Like,
He knew his time was coming, but he had no way to know that Dedra had received
no,
somebody
but
else's emails,
no,
right?
no, no, but I'm saying I'm surprised that as paranoid and prepared as he and Clea were, that they didn't have that place like rigged with bombs.
Yeah, there wasn't just
And-
some one big
Because
red button and explode everything.
Yeah.
because he genuinely loves his antiques and he would never want to
That's
destroy
that's what
those.
I was wondering. I was like, damn, did bro really love the antiques that much?
Gotta pack everything up in bubble paper and
Really?
get the hell out.
I was like, was that's but I love that your brain also went there, Tracy, because I was like, did he not rig the shop to blow because he really loved him's antiques?
These are
Hmm.
priceless artifacts.
I mean,
They
like
belong
I
in.
would.
He knows somebody will put them in a museum, right? His friend from Scoldon's museum. She'll
Hey,
take them and put them in
can
a
I tell you
museum.
what can I tell you what I would have done if I were them?
Oh.
Because you remember they had that whole kerfuffle about the fakes, the fake
Mhm.
artifacts. Okay, so my headcanon is that the whole reason that they did that is because everything on display is a fake, and the ones that they have that are real are in the back. And when they're like, "Oh, we'll go polish it up for you and put it in the box," they actually swap it for the real one.
Oh no, I think he was alluding to the fact that he and Dedra were the two fakes.
No,
Yeah,
that's not what I was talking about. But yes, you're right. No, that immediately. Sorry, I was talking about something completely different. Because I do think he has everything real in the gallery, but I was like, I was like, my thought was like, oh, he's got the whole place rigged to blow up. All the real artifacts are in like a blast-proof safe in the
Oh, okay. Right.
right. And when somebody purchases something, he goes, "I'll go box that up for you," and then he finally gives him the real thing.
Right.
But I thought, oh,
These are the floor display items.
yeah,
Right?
floor display. I thought he'd have like a floor display kind of thing so that he could blow the place and go out that way, right? But no, I love that you went back to that line, Tracy, because like I was watching that
The wordplay there between
I
the
was
two of
watching
them
that with my friend, and she's like, "Is everything in here real?" Right? He goes, "Oh, there's only 2 items of dubious nature or origin or something like that." And I was
questionable
like,
providence.
my friend and I, my friend and I both went, "Oh, the sass, the shade." Like
It was a very beautiful dance between the two
Yeah.
of them in
it
that
was,
shot.
I love
Right?
and I
yeah,
love
And
how
she
she's
was
like,
so
"Oh,
cocky. She was
it's
so cocky.
calm here. It's so peaceful."
yeah. No,
So
I like,
Tom's
yeah, I love the whole like, oh, only 2 pieces. I was like, it's them.
Tom's
But
saying that
no,
he
I
thinks
thought
that
that's
the
Go ahead.
Tom's saying that he thinks the flashbacks were shows that the artifacts were a means to an end, like everything in his life,
Yeah.
which maybe I think would have been in the beginning, but I think that we revert to things that we love. And I think in his true heart, one of the reasons why he is such a rebel liberationist is because he's a history buff at heart, right? And part of what goes along with that is artifacts. So even if it was originally a means to an end, I think he has a genuine love for these things, you know,
That
and the
dagger
history
was
of them.
real.
Yeah, it was.
It's like,
And it was a
Attacker was real.
ceremonial sacrificial dagger.
yeah.
Well, I mean,
And
for
he
that matter, it's
sacrificed
also
himself
like
with it.
thousands of years old. So I mean, that is not that sharp, man. I mean, that had to hurt.
Yeah.
So that
Well,
was-
if it's kind of like an obsidian type thing, it's probably sharper than it looks.
True.
still not a
It's like
clean
white
cut.
obsidian.
Still not a
I
clean
also
cut.
love that her artifact that she pulls out is the Star Path unit from the
Yeah.
freaking beginning of the whole damn thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Oh.
says so much about her character, just the obsession, the and also the showmanship, right? I mean, it's like, she says a few episodes before, she says, I'm not in this for the glory. I just want access. Like, yes, you do. You wanted to gloat. You went in there by yourself, and you wanted to show this off. Which is delicious, honestly.
Oh, that was
But we also can't forget the line that he says to Clea, where he says, "We used up all the perfect. Like we
Yeah.
had all these
Yeah.
wonderful years together, and this is it.
Yeah, she says-
We've run out of luck here."
yeah, she said don't talk to him or don't meet or whatever unless it's perfect. And he's like, I think that was she's talking about meeting with Lonnie.
Yeah, and that kind of
And
brings
less
you
than
back to
perfect. And less than perfect was the fact that Lonnie needs an extraction, and I don't have the time or the resources to perform one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that, like, again, that kind of brings me back to like why so many of these lines have so many different meanings, right? So he's talking about the spycraft, but he's also talking what you said, Tracy. He's like, yeah, our time's over together, you know, and it's just like he just knows, and it's like, man, the writing is just impeccable, and I just love that.
And I want to use that to transition into, okay, so this line that he says to Clea when they're on Naboo, this is a really important thing. He says, you need to know you're making a choice. I lived most of my life without knowing that was a possibility. And I think that's really fascinating in terms of, okay, knowing that he was this soldier, and that idea of this kind of brings back to something that we've revisited multiple times, particularly with the Imperials, of, the difference between, hiding behind the excuse of just following orders, right? Like, what level of complicitness do you accept?
Cyril knows,
Right.
but he can't tell anybody. Cyril
Oh,
knows.
poor Cyril. Not really, but
Poor Cyril, but not poor Cyril. But
I was in the Star Wars universe, I'd be Cyril.
oh,
It's just that's how, I mean, I never liked the guy. I never really, I get his arc and I get his character, but it's just like, again, to go back to last week with that whole "who are you" thing, I just was such a punch in the gut, and I'm just like,
I
man,
disagree because you married Cammy and she's amazing and nowhere near like
well,
Dedra.
thank you. That is okay. I was just speaking of me as a person, but yes, as someone
yeah,
who
he probably doesn't demand you turn out the lights.
yeah, as someone who has brought massive joy to others, yes, I'm a paragon. No, I'm kidding.
But maybe
that
she
said-
talks smack to maybe she talks smack to your mother. I don't know.
So all that said, let's
Edie deserved the
jump to
smackdown.
let's jump to Dedra here. She has, oh yeah, oh my god,
I did the same thing that Lexi just said. That scene.
that scene is, and
Yeah.
just like the genuine look of terror on her
Yes.
face. I mean, and honestly, it's like, like the insider, like, actor director in me can like see her going, oh fuck, this is so good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Just her face. Just her
Yeah.
face is a masterclass in acting, because when he mentions young, she's just like the disgust on her face. And she
Yeah.
goes back and forth between obstinate, disgust, fear,
Yeah.
guilt, all
She
the like, I
brings-
mean, her
She works that mid and close
Yeah.
tight
Well,
so
She
well.
said,
and
said in
also
an
that you can
interview
see
that
her like putting it together. Like she doesn't know that Luthen's dead yet. She doesn't know that Young died. I mean, it's like it's like she's putting it all together, and it's like fuck.
she had said in an interview that he improv that. And so her mind went to exactly what, you guys were saying. It's like, oh shit, this is awesome, and I better not break. And so
Yes.
they're like, this is what we're using. We're keeping this, why did he do that? And it was so good.
Yeah, that's the oh shit, that's good. Breathe into it, just breathe into
Right,
it.
right, right. But again, her face spoke volumes, and I was like, yep, you're in it. You're in the zone, man. This is gonna be awesome. And it was.
There are so many amazing like this. I mean, honestly, her whole arc in this is just irony after irony. She gets arrested by her former assistant. Her intern
Who then
arrests
gets
her,
used
right?
as a human shield.
Oh God,
Yeah.
yeah. Who gets ragdolled around? Oh my God.
I love how he was so big and tough too, and the trooper squad leader was like twice as tall as him, and he's just like, yeah, this is what we're gonna do.
Total Chihuahua, total Chihuahua energy.
He's like, I can do this.
Yes!
Let me at him.
Yes,
It's the
Chihuahua
it's
energy.
the bulldog and the chihuahua from Looney Tunes, like the
Yeah.
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 Well, and then of course, but then he still comes and visits and goes, I don't know what the fuck to do. How do I figure this out?
Yeah.
I like that they made her hair just slightly disheveled.
Yeah.
Disheveled, yeah. She had the bits around her face and everything. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, it wasn't. The people were like, "Oh, I wish they'd made her look more roughed up." Like I saw, like not very many, but I saw one or two, and I was like, "Are you kidding? A hair out of place is a lot for that woman."
Mhm.
Now, did you guys catch? When Hertz comes to ask her for help, and he asks, "Why is Krennic involved?" What's it? And she goes, "Is this a test?"
Yeah.
So like
Everything's a test in the
so, like,
Empire.
he still doesn't know about the Death Star,
Mhm.
and of course, she got needled by Krennic about the Death Star.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was actually also just interesting work from oh God, what's his name? Krennic, the actor's name.
Oh, Ben
Ben
Mendelsohn.
Mendelsohn.
Ben Mendelsohn.
As he's just drawing it out, like what single thing? Why am I here? what would
With
drag me
just
out
a
here?
deliciousness to
Yeah.
his voice.
He just eats every scene up that he's in.
It
He
was
just
it
chews it
was
up.
very it had an element of very like the enunciation had an element of very classic movie villain,
Yeah,
like that
Yeah.
classic sleazy movie villain that you love to hate that is irredeemable, but like layered on top of all the other good Krennic stuff he's done.
He plays
Well, very
and
plays the ultimate bully. He's so good
But-
at it.
but
Well-
Ben, there's something about Ben Mendelsohn's voice where he has a little bit of like a to it or something, and so you recognize his voice in everything, even like Secret Invasion, right? Like when he's behind all the crazy green makeup, you recognize that into his voice, and it's just like has I don't know. There's something about the
That
vibration of
smoker's
it that's
growl.
very.
I'll have to-
I don't even know.
I'll
I don't know.
have
There's
to
something to it that's
listen
just
to
like
it and
draws you
come
in.
up with- I'll have to re-listen to something. I'll have to re-listen to one of one of those monologues he does, and think about it in terms of vocal coaching and linguistics, because I could probably think of the term for what it is he does. I just
He does it really good in Ready Player One too. He's got
Mm.
It's almost like an upper New England aristocracy type of accent too. It's not even like fully English accent, right?
I was gonna say I thought he was British.
he's
Nah,
Australian.
he's Australian.
Yeah.
When you hear him naturally,
Oh,
got a lot in here.
Oh, I don't know what he does.
okay.
I'll have to take a re-listen. I wasn't
The
listening.
Death Star.
It's so interesting. Like I was more watching his body language and facial expressions. I now realize because he's so subtle with those, and I wasn't thinking of his performance in like a vocal and linguistic sense, which is funny as somebody who's done a lot of vocal coaching and dialects. So I'll have to take a listen through of something that's Krennic heavy, a watch through and see and listen.
Well, I mean, this is the other thing too, right? I mean, I really love So, we see him at the beginning of the season, and he is like, you know, comes into that meeting, in the well, the whole, mountaintop thing, and he's kind of sweeping through. He's like at his peak, right? And in this moment, there is so much irony around everyone in the ISB, right? Deidre is going down. Hertz gets killed.
Here gets the
Partagas,
hurts.
Hashtag meat shield.
well,
Here gets the hurts.
and Partagas, I mean, is
Oh,
he's also going down too. Like all of ISB is
hold on,
crumbling,
Partagas.
right?
Can we touch on
And the thing is,
Partagas?
if you think about Krennic in Rogue One, he is really over the top villain, and I thought this really all sets him up for that over to the top performance so well, because he, by the end of this, he is desperate. The entire ISB, his entire department, are all dead, in jail, or committed suicide.
Like the end of the first.
It's really just him and Yularen that are left, basically.
Can
Lonnie's dead. Um,
can we talk about Partagas for like a hot second?
please,
Because
yes.
that's
Anton
poetic.
Lesser.
We were like continuing the poetry. Oh, the fact that he's listening to Nemec's speech when he gets called in.
Well, and also that like he calls out Krennic too, like when they're alone, and he says, he's like questioning like the Death Star. Like, really, the Death Star? Um and like,
Well, didn't he say like we want him to be scared or like
yeah.
it sounds spooky.
So okay, I'm gonna go back to his first line when we first meet him. He says, "Security is an illusion. You want security, you call the Navy. Launch a regiment of troopers. We are healthcare providers. We treat sickness. We identify symptoms. We locate germs, whether they arise from within or have come from the outside. The longer we wait to identify a disorder, the harder it is to treat the disease." And I love that it's like it's ultimately his idea to say, she's got a plague. We've
Playa.
got a,
Yeah.
we've got a, that's our cover. We're not going to talk about the Death Star. And of course, it is his alibi that has spread their forces too thin that they can't react once everything goes south.
Mhm.
And to what you were talking about, Lexi, of course, he's listening to Nemec's manifesto. We now, through this, we find out that the single has not been stopped. It's out there, and he just says it just keeps spreading.
Like
yeah,
a disease.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it's also, you can see him like questioning, right? Like even when he's talking to Krennic about
And that's
the
not to
Death
say,
Star.
yeah, and that's not to say like turning rebel so much as he's like, like, and I don't think it was, I think it was, obviously it was intentional that they chose to tune in for Nemec's manifesto that he's listening to on like the part about control, the Empire's need for
Yeah.
control being so great because it is unnatural.
Natural.
And I think that at that particular moment, not in a he was going to turn rebel kind of way, but in like he's having a Cyril moment. Everything he knows is being a little shaken.
I mean,
Mm.
I honestly, I was taking it because you can see the doubt in his face, right?
He's literally
He's
kind
shaken.
of nodding,
And
not
it's
in
like,
necessarily agreement, but in like
He's
this
quivering.
is maybe he thought the disease was the unnatural
the
thing.
rebels, and then maybe we're the disease.
And he's like, what is oh shit, what's the disease? Oh no. Like it was giving him philosophical nightmares, and he knows he's gonna have to face unjust repercussions for honestly doing his best job. He's an awful person, but he was doing his best job.
And I love,
And a true believer too.
and I love
right?
that
Right?
his
Yeah.
Up until that
question,
moment.
his last question there is, what do you think it means? Right? And of course he doesn't get an answer.
Mhm.
Because
Doesn't he ask,
ultimately,
who do you think it is? Like, who do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, who do you think it is?
yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was, what do you think it means?
Maybe he
Oh.
has both, but he definitely says, "Who do you think it is?"
He definitely says, who do you think it is? And the interesting thing is that the implication there, thanks for mentioning that line, Tracy, because like I think to me, I read that as he thinks this must be the leader of the rebellion because he's their voice, not understanding that the rebellion is not this
Interesting.
is not this rigid, is not the rigidity, like he's running up against the limitations of rigid imperial thinking. We're going, oh, the voice, this must be, like they're Palpatine
Not
on
knowing it's like a 19-year-old kid on a planet who's long dead. But it goes back to Luthen's line to Dedra too, where he says there's a whole galaxy out there waiting to disgust
Waiting
you.
to disgust you, yeah.
And they even
Like,
make
we
it,
are
make it a
everywhere,
point to.
and that's
Well,
where
maybe-
Partagas realizes that they're all out there too.
Well, it also implies that he's also heard or read Nemec's manifesto and agrees.
Well, I think it hits home finally to him, right in that moment, right. I just want to read real quick what I in my note, because I was like so taken aback by that scene particularly. It's like Nemec's callback was an amazing bookend. Partagas really hearing it and realizing Nemec was a prophet. Anton Lesser's acting with the quiver in his voice that once was so stern, to the shake in his body that was once so rigid, to the stare into the void as he listens to Nemec's words. And then the final choice to end it all, knowing the Emperor would have killed him anyways, is reminiscent of many tyrants' ends. So, like, and then the fact that Nemec's manifesto was given to Cassian and he entrusted him to spread it. He did
And
it,
he did.
and it spread so far that the Empire couldn't contain it.
Yeah.
Gorman, Scarif, Kyber, Krennic.
And they were talking, Mon Mothma was talking about
chant.
Gorman all the way in season 1. It's been consistent. If anybody has anything on this that they noticed that could pacify me, I would really, really appreciate it. I don't feel like this is the only thing I feel like maybe got dropped due to the shortening of the format, or going from 5 seasons to 2 seasons.
Sorry, what got dropped?
I'm asking if anybody noticed or remembered something that I might have missed that makes it not dropped. That Kyber crystal that he gives Cassian as
the necklace.
1.
Right.
Kyber necklace.
Cloud Kyber or something.
Cloud
Kyber, right? So they make a big old stink about that. And Luthen literally says, like, this will mean more to me than you will ever know. Or something to that effect. And then it
would have been nice if there was a scene where like Clea gave that to him to sell or something and he couldn't sell it or something.
That
would have been nice.
Or was it something else?
No, exactly, I'm saying it would have been nice if that
yes. So that something like that would have been nice. Like he didn't need to be a Jedi. Maybe he had a friend growing up who was a Jedi.
Or you know what? I mean, or it just goes back to his line to Clea. It's like, I lie, get used to it.
Yeah.
He needed leverage with Cassian, right? Like, this is important to me, so it needs to be important to you. And Cassian made it important to him.
An expensive Kyber crystal is leverage enough. Anyway, I just that seemed unnecessary to add, even as like a tactic, you know what I mean? And I was like, would have been nice if they'd follow that up, because like you said, Tracy, that could have been her mother's artifact or something.
Sure.
Right? They could have
also, okay, granted, we're gonna see that same beat in Rogue One very soon, right? with Jyn Erso getting the Kyber from her mom. Let's jump to Clea. Let's focus in on Clea, who honestly, I mean, gosh, it's like I've loved her character and always, like, she's been so minimal and just such a force in every scene that she's in. And then it's like this episode basically just kind of confirms her as the MVP of the freaking series, right?
What, like, I remember seeing a little piece on an interview with her where she's talking about how this was one of her first auditions out of, acting school. And they're like, well, you did great on the callback, and her agent's like, yeah, you did great on the callback. They want to see you again. You're going to be reading opposite of Stellan Skarsgård. Don't be nervous about it.
It just Skellen. Um,
I would
yeah.
have got all my screaming out in the car.
Also,
Did you see him
props to
on Stephen Colbert where they called him a Nepo Zaddy? Did you see that? Because his sons are so famous too. He's like, I'm a
Yes.
Nepo daddy. And Colbert was like, I think you're a Nepo zaddy.
Yeah. No, I'm not surprised it was Colbert who said it. What was the other? It was totally inconsequential, but it was I don't think it was the Hemsworths, but it was some other a group of brothers, and they're like, okay, you and your brothers versus the Skarsgård brothers, or the Skarsgård guys in Hollywood. Who would win? They're like, oh shit, the Skarsgårds were not. Nope, those guys. Have you seen how tall they are? Like, but I can't remember what other brothers are. But yeah, the Skarsgårds are big. Yeah, tall Nepo family.
We're about to lose Jason. So
Any last thoughts, Jason?
Jason, what do you want to talk
I
about?
have to take my kid to grad night. She graduates this weekend, so everything's like
Woohoo!
coming to a head, and I'm gonna cry for the rest of my life. So so she went to prom last night, and I'm like,
Oh, dang.
oh god, she dressed like Lorraine from Back to the Future, and her date dressed
so
like.
good. She looks so cute.
And so I'm
Those
like,
pictures were great.
I did one thing right. I made my kid the ultimate nerd. So it was like, but I will be back whenever we do next time. So, but yes.
No last thoughts?
Oh,
You've hardly gotten a word in.
it's okay. You know, I wish, I don't know. I wish we knew more about that baby, but not that we need to. I know that's not what's important, but I wonder if that was also put there by Disney to be like, hey, if we ever want to revisit something, we can go back to that well, and make, the adventures of Bix and Baby Andor. But I mean, like, who knows? But I thoroughly enjoyed it again. I think the best thing, I love Mando. I do. I love me my Mando. But I mean, that first season, pound for pound for me, was probably some of the best Star Wars I ever enjoyed. And the second season did not disappoint either. So I loved it. And I'm sad to see it go. So
Right
So
on.
happy sad.
but yes, sad. So but
Well,
yeah,
have fun at
Jason,
grad
we'll catch
night.
you later.
oh yeah, may the force be with all of you. So but
And also with you.
and also
Are they doing Disneyland for grad night? Or
Great
are they going
America.
somewhere else?
Oh,
I'm in the Bay
What
Area.
is it?
So
he's in the
Great
Bay.
I'm in
America.
the Bay Area where well, I don't know. We had people, we had schools drive down crazy distances.
When I went to the same school as her, and they did do Disneyland when I did it, but I never got to go because it was like at the time astronomically priced, and the school
I was
was
gonna say,
astronomically
I'm
priced.
sure it's not astronomically priced now.
Oh no, now it's only 700 times more than it was back in the
So
90s.
where did they
So
go? Where are they going?
remember when Disneyland was $50?
I do because I literally have video from when I went the summer I graduated, and I filmed the ticket booth, and it was a
Mhm.
$52 ticket, and I was like, "What the f?" So
Yep.
I'm like, but
So where are
Oh,
they
well.
going?
a great America. It's
Oh, fun.
yeah, it's
Like a Six Flags or something.
yes,
Some type-
yes,
Yeah.
and we're losing
Yeah.
that too. They're tearing that down in a couple of years here, and I think they're making it
That's
a parking
right.
lot. So because it's right next to our giant Levi Stadium, so they need more spaces. I don't know.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
Aw.
But oh well, this again. That's why we can't have nice things. So
Well,
But-
have fun.
oh yes, I will see you guys soon.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. For us remaining, so let's jump back into Clea. Let's just talk about that hospital siege. I love that the Imperials are like had to have been a team of three, and it really just was her being freaking crazy.
The granny, perfect. I love the little snuck in moment of classic alien Star Wars like humor.
With her little legs swinging
Yes.
Yeah.
and
I,
her
I love
hair
I love
scattering.
just the moment they're in the elevator and she's like, eh? And she's like, what?
Eh?
And it's just like it's a
Yeah.
total throwaway moment.
Did you guys catch that? That's like the Muzak version of Neamos.
I can't. Yeah.
It's like a Muzak version of Neamos. So it was like really cool.
So we can't
Yeah.
move on until we acknowledge. I saw an article about how the hospital is named after Lena So,
Right.
who was in the High Republic story, and she helped with like the aftermath and rescue. So I thought it was kind of cool that the hospital was named
That's
after her.
cool.
Yeah,
I
for
didn't
someone
notice
who
that. Thank you,
who's
Tracy.
not like a huge Star Wars fan, Tony Gilroy got like a lot of like deep
He's
lore.
not.
Deep cuts, man.
That's what he claims. He claims like he's not a big Star Wars fan.
Maybe that's why it's so good, because he's just a good storyteller and
I mean,
he's able to connect the dots.
In a lot of the interviews, I mean, he's basically just saying, you know, his target for this was non-Star Wars fans, right? And that's why ultimately it's like this is something where he's been able to channel his nerdery over World War II history and just studying rebellions and like, you know,
But getting to do it in a really unique format in a really fun universe with really fun fucking props and costumes and sets and
yeah.
like
He didn't direct Rogue One, right? He helped write it, but he didn't direct it, right?
He was brought in. So okay, I believe this was a whole messed up thing, and no one will talk about what actually happened. But originally, they hired Gareth Edwards to do the film, and then at some point, they fired Gareth Edwards, and they brought Tony Gilroy on to redo it. And so he, you know, rewrote the script, reshot it. That's why there are shots in the trailer that don't appear in the film. There's points of dialogue that are in the trailer that don't show up in the film because ultimately he reworked what was started. And I think out of respect to each other, like no one talks Gilroy, Edwards, no one talks about that at all. But one of the things that Tony Gilroy did say in an interview was, you know, that process was rough, and luckily Diego was one of the people who was not really offended by me coming on to the project, and so they got along really well. Which, you know, they started talking about the casting Andor thing early on.
Huh, I didn't know that. That's really
Yeah.
interesting. Glad I asked.
Some inside baseball industry junk there.
Well, they kind of did the same thing with Joss Whedon and what was it, Justice League or something?
Yeah, and that did not work as well.
Well, Joss Whedon didn't work as well. So anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
period.
Let's see here.
Well, I mean,
Hey, Rodney.
I like it because I think personally, and yeah, of course, because they made a Shakespeare reference, my brain has probably gone there. But I think some of the best Shakespeare productions I've ever seen have been from directors that don't treat Shakespeare necessarily with reverence.
Mm.
They respect the text, but they don't treat it with reverence because Shakespeare sure as fuck didn't. He's making, you know, like dick jokes every third page and sex jokes every other. Like
He was a playwright for the people.
Exactly. He was like he's got the highbrow right next to the lowbrow, and it's fantastic. And so I loved that there was also a mix of that, but I think that that's one of the reasons why Gilroy did it so well, because you know, he wasn't trying to like address a Shakespeare. He wasn't trying to address a Star Wars. He was like, I'm going to make a really good intrigue and espionage film and series, and the given circumstances shall be Star Wars. Instead of saying he raises the Colt 44, he raises the blaster. Yeah. I think that's one of the huge reasons that it worked.
And I think going back to that hospital scene, the fact that Hertz thought it was 3 people and not just one little female warrior, but also the fact that I don't think she thought that Luthen would break if he was tortured. I think she loved him so much that she didn't even want him to be put through that. You know, like I feel like that was kind of like almost like an unspoken agreement between the two of them.
I thought it
That
was
if one of the other got
pact.
captured or hurt, like, you know, they would do that for the other one as like a almost like a symbol of their love for each other.
I thought it was I thought it was a mutual pact of like whoever gets caught first takes the other one out so that we're not a liability, and we know that's what we would want. And that's why, because of that, I think you're right, because he was so insistent that she not be the one who go to the shop.
He wasn't going to let it be her.
He wasn't
It
going to
was-
let it be her. He already
it was
knew he
him.
didn't have the time and resources to extract Lonnie, so sadly Lonnie had to go. And I think that was like at first, correct me if I'm wrong on the order, you guys, but I think he asked, you know, Lonnie, he's like, how big is this? And Lonnie's like, they don't know now, but they'll send everything after me, assume they're on their way.
Yeah.
And that's the point where I think Luthen goes, it's a toss up if I make it out. I can't do the whole young family too.
Yeah.
I made it in my
Yeah.
notes that it was interesting because as soon as he kills, he kills him off screen, but then you see that shot of him going down the stairs, and it's a Dutch angle, as if like his whole world is tilted on its axis, on its axis, right?
Axis.
Right.
And they do it again when he meets with Clay on the stairs too.
Yeah. It's like the overhead shot, and everything's kind of going by them. And then it's just like that chaos of like, and then just like you can tell that palpable sort of just tension that's like, okay, this is the end game. He literally says like, and he says it, and it's like, oh man, so Clay, so we're talking about Clea some more too, whereas like Clea, the relationship between the two of them, him sort of like not grooming her. That's such a bad word. I didn't mean to say that. I didn't mean to say that.
Non-sexually grooming her.
Training her training her to be this spy that they are training to start a rebellion, to play this part in a rebellion, to get
unpopular opinion, that's still grooming. It's just not sexual.
It's true. I mean, to be, and then I thought,
and this is why we can't have nice things, as Jason said.
This is true. Like things get co-opted, right? And it's just it's such a beautiful relationship, as twisted as it is.
I mean,
very imperfect.
Like the moment, she and she there's no doubt, right? She walks into the room, she sees him, and there is the pain but she immediately goes right to work. She detaches the thing. And then you can just kind of see there's so much wonderful irony where, like, I don't know. I interpreted this like there's still some resentment because he is a soldier who killed her family and her planet. But he is also still a father figure. He also turned her into, a weapon.
A warrior, yeah.
In case you're wondering what it's like to be a half Mexican with a white dad. Sorry.
But I mean,
but at the same time, when she kills him, she needs to get the heck out of Dodge, and she takes a minute to kiss him on the forehead.
Well, I love that moment because you can kind of see she does it, and then there's that almost that moment of like, there's a guilt, and then she's like, I should do something, and it's like, that kiss is so quick and just so like regretful. It was just a wonderful,
but also thankful. There was so much in that moment.
Yeah.
It was loving, it was thankful, it was, sad.
If I could have given a line to that kiss, it would have been the thing that Cassian said to the new rebellion recruit, where he said, I'll see you along the road.
Yeah.
Like that kiss felt like, I'll see you along the road. And yeah, she was.
Well,
so
you want to
cool.
talk about full circle, right? Again, so when Cassian is mourning him, or what was it? Oh no, it's when he finds woman and he says Luthen is dead, and Luthen is shocked and he says he made it worth it. which
Yeah.
is a callback
Totally
to the
callback.
back where she's,
Yeah.
you know, is it worth it?
Yeah, I put
It's
that in
like
my
the
notes
theme, the
too.
whole theme of the
Made it
season.
worth it.
Yeah. There's so
let's
many,
talk about-
so many times, and not just that. He asked that line. That line comes up several times. That question, is it
Yeah.
worth it? Comes up so many times from season 1 to season 2, and for him to say like, yeah, he made it worth it. It's like
Yeah.
such a great like callback. It's just like. And that's one of the other things too that I loved about this. It was like, you know, we're talking about character arcs, but a lot of these are like theme arcs,
Yeah.
right? Like they're these concepts that are like they're put together like these you know, for the lack of the word, it's like a thesis, you
Yeah.
know, that is posed and then it's come to a conclusion, and it's like the rebellion itself is shown in an arc, right? It's
Yeah.
like the starts of this rebellion to then boom, Yavin, right? And then the empire, right, is shown in this arc. It's like stern, dominant, oppressive, and then at the end, chaos. And they've
Yeah.
lost, like they just lost their way. They're realizing like they're losing it. It's like that alone is just like this arc, and it's just
Which
beautiful to
runs
me.
almost
So-
parallel to the, or not parallel, which runs almost like parallel but in the opposite direction to the
Yeah.
rebellion's arc.
I really quickly, I also want to talk about kind of the end of Clea's arc, right? Where she's all kind of like worried about going to Yavin because, you know, she knows like that everyone is kind of bad mouthing her and Luthen. But that moment, and she's out in the rain, and like I was so fascinated by the interaction with her and Vel, because like the last time we see them interact, it's always antagonistic, right? And it's like Vel doesn't miss a beat. She just, you know, throws the poncho over her and just like, we got to get you out of the rain. And it's like, and you can see that's like that act of kindness, and that kind of like, we don't have to, you know, be under the gun all the time anymore. It's like that's the change in Vel, but that's also like that's kind of spark of hope that kind of snaps her out of things, right?
Because Vel recognizes that they're the ones who had to do the dirty work. And
Yeah.
the dirty work that they did that nobody else wanted to do was crucial. And it was what brought them all together.
I
Yeah.
also love like the thing that she brings her out, like, you know, Clea says, I don't know where I am, and Vel just says, I have friends everywhere. You're here with friends. And I'm like, yeah, bring that right back
I
around.
said the thing.
I wish we knew what happened to Vel at the end of all this, because obviously she's not in Rogue One. Like, I want to know what happens to Vel.
I mean, my
And
head
Clea,
can,
right?
yeah, I mean, my head canon is Vel and Clea go off and train some Bothans.
True.
That's the head canon, anyways. Yeah, I also just love that hint of a smile in that final montage where she's just kind of looking out and she's actually seeing the camp in Yavin base, and there's just a ever hint of a smile of like, this is what we built. This was actually what
Yeah.
it was about. And you know, for someone who was as bleak as she was from childhood. Also, shout out to the young actress who played young Clea. She was freaking solid. My God.
There's a
She was
couple
a
of them,
force.
right? There was a little one and then like a slightly older one.
Oh, I thought it was the same actress,
Same.
but maybe
It couldn't
be.
have been because there was one that was slightly older.
But
But they were both great.
yeah,
Fantastic.
it's like you believe this is a kid who's been through something. She's an adult now. She's not.
Really intelligent kid too. Like you can tell like right away. She's just like really intelligent. You know.
Okay, it's 7:10. I love how we've talked about everyone except for Cassian himself.
I mean that is kind of like yeah. Go ahead,
Well, we
Tracy.
haven't talked about
Tracy.
Bix or K2SO.
I know.
Before we leave Vel entirely, and this is kind of a good transition to Cassian, is when they do their toast
Yes.
to
Yeah.
those who have their hero toast, and they specifically leave out Screen.
Leave out what?
What was it? Screen or Skeen?
Skiing.
No, yes.
The guy
Yeah.
that betrayed
Them, yeah.
right?
I was also bummed that he didn't call out Brasso, but of course Vel doesn't really know Brasso, but
Yeah.
Brasso,
But
man.
I think he would have, but they had just talked about Bix, and I don't know
Yeah.
that he wanted to bring up Bix because she was like, you
Sure.
should reach out to her. And I don't know. I feel like there was a reason there, but it was interesting that she called out Marva, but not Brasso. I will say
I
that.
mean, but she never interacted with Brasso, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I buy it.
Well, and then, and the thing is too is like he had to bring up Cinta.
Yeah.
She didn't actually say
Exactly.
Cinta, right? So I think
Yeah.
that
Because
might
I
have
think
been
she still
something like
doesn't want
that.
to acknowledge her
Yeah.
loss.
It
Yeah.
is something like that. I think it's something along the same lines, right? So Tracy, what did you think? So, yeah. So Cassian, what did you think about Cassian's arc? Like,
So I think it's really interesting how he went from. I mean, again, it's like he's the kind of the creature of destiny in this, and we even the Force healer says that, and that the look that he shared with the Force healer as he was walking off to go into Rogue One, I think was very telling because she knew that it was going to be the last time she saw him, and he was going to meet his destiny. I think that the way he went from kind of being he was always in a way a rebel, right? Even on with Marva as a kid he was a rebel. And but the most interesting thing is his arc with Luthen and how he goes from not trusting him to sort of trusting him to not trusting him to being a part of the thing he created to not trusting him to trusting him to defending him when nobody else would trust him and the
Yeah.
information that he delivered to them. Just a very interesting arc in that way. His relationship with Bix was interesting, but it wasn't that to me was like they have so much history together. Really knew she was pregnant, by the way.
Yeah.
Really knew it.
Called
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Called it.
He did call it. I remember that.
Yeah.
He
I
did
think
call
we
it.
all called it.
But that's the relationship. I mean, and it's like I said before, like it's hundreds, thousands, if not millions of people who are making small decisions every single day that are leading to his one action that's going to get those plans in Princess Leia's hands and create the entire franchise that we know and love. Without one of those people, whether it's the girl who's flirting with him, whether it's um a droid doing something, whether it's somebody not doing the sign language in the prison that eventually allowed them to escape. I mean, every single tiny little decision that everybody made along the way kept him on that path to his destiny. And it's so sad and tragic in a way that we know that it's going to end that way. Right? He fulfills his destiny. He 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 meets it with his eyes wide open, but we know that's it for him.
Yeah, he
So we're
doesn't.
rooting for him this whole time,
And the
knowing
added
that
Bix layer is like what Bix
yeah.
saying, like,
Well, that
oh,
was
good,
such a
but,
Black Panther move right there.
but
Oh.
the added like Bix saying in her letter, come find me when this is all over, and we're like, oh, that's not gonna happen.
Son of a bitch.
That's not gonna happen. Sorry.
Rot row.
I also love, I mean, the that idea of the Force healer introduces that he's gathering. And when you think about like, yeah, it's like, it's like he was not the inspirational leader, but he like inspired Kino Loy, to speak out. He, has picked up Luthen's cutthroatness when it's needed because we watch him kill Tivik, in the opening minutes of Rogue One. All
He
these little
saves
bits.
Mon Mothma.
They even plant the seed where the bellhop or the clerk in Gorman, tells him, rebellions are built on hope, which of course he'll repeat to Jyn Erso later on.
I mean, that episode is actually called
and then
The
she
Messenger
repeats.
too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she repeats, and then
That's
he again. We talked about it earlier. He's the one that distributes Nimic's manifesto, right? And like there's so many things that he
Force healer.
does. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Okay, one little Easter egg that I never got a chance to talk about last week, but I absolutely loved was when Vel holds up the blaster and goes, "Whose blaster is this?" And it's Melshi's.
Oh,
And
she
of course,
was
it's the
Darth
same
Vader.
blaster that Cassian gave him when they escaped, and then
Wasn't it
they got back to Narkina, which was also the blaster that he
took from
stole
Cyril?
from
I'm
Cyril,
sorry.
Yeah.
which was like, oh my god!
It's so great.
And so the fact that she recognizes the blue and orange, this is a Corpo gun, you know, this is Cassian's. What the hell? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
No, I thought it was
No,
great. That was
I
really
love
great.
that. Speaking of little details, one of my favorite little details was that both Marva and Bix kept houseplants. And when
Oh,
Bix's
Yeah.
when Bix's mental health was at its worst, the houseplants weren't in good condition or they were dead.
It reminded
And
me to water my
right
plants, by the way.
before Rogue One, Cassian leaves and he
Yeah.
walks.
Yeah.
Honestly, the whole design of
Yeah.
that set too, right? Like there is like a bit of that kind of, you know, tribal look that, you know, goes back to his home planet. And then yeah, there's little bits of like there's little bits of everywhere that he's been, right?
Mhm.
Little artifacts. And also I just love the scene with it's just such a little great little detail of him and Melshi and K2SO playing pirates dice and getting drunk and just like
The red
Like,
bachelor
dog.
my
pad.
wife left me, so I got my bros to move in, and now we're roommates.
Yeah.
And
Totally,
K2SO,
totally.
K2SO, the kid does not is trying desperately to follow the jokes they're making about him, and like they're drunk. And that was very cute. That was
It's
some
so
cute.
well done, right? It was just so
Yeah.
well done to just add flavor, but then also shows like the camaraderie, shows the all that, you know.
But
and
also
then,
like I mean also it's the getting to finally get Cassian to see Cassian embrace a little bit of joy, right? Like every episode is like at these most intense moments, right? And
yeah,
here he is just chilling with the bros.
getting drunk, getting drunk,
Prop
playing.
Master
Yeah.
actually the Prop Master created that game. It's based on Mahjong and dominoes, and created entire rules for that game.
Oh really?
I
I want to
believe
meet
it.
that prop
Mhm.
master.
Yeah.
It sounded
Yeah.
like Pirates Dice. I was like assuming they were just going that route.
Yeah.
Did you also get a name for it, Tracy?
There was, but I didn't write it down. I can't remember what it
That's
was,
okay.
but there
I'm
was a
just-
name for it.
I'm just
Oh,
happy
really?
you got the trivia.
Speaking
But
of Melshi,
somebody did the math, and they played it at least twice a day.
That's crazy.
I love nerds.
No, that makes sense
sometimes.
because when I was in the Navy, we played poker every night when we were out to sea. I'm not kidding. We would get off of work at 7 p.m. We would probably start around 7:30, 8. And we'd play till 4 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes 6 o'clock in the morning. Out to sea.
That's like
It's
Star Trek Next
but that's what I'm
Generation.
saying. You're out to
you know?
sea. You're
It's
like
not the
doing
same.
nothing, you know? So yeah.
It's not the staying up till 4 in the morning that's got me. It's the fact that it was poker the whole time. Because I've stayed up until 4 in the morning
Yeah.
with my friends a lot.
Well, it was
But we're
dealer
not doing the
calls
same thing the
game.
whole time.
Yeah, dealer calls games. It was different types of poker.
Right.
So it varied. So, but yes, it was crazy. Anyways, I wanted to go back real quickly.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about Deidre being in
Narkina.
Narkina.
Tina,
Oh my god.
making
Right?
Star
How-
How she-
quickly.
How is that right? Like I kept
And
thinking,
she waited until the lights were off before she broke down.
and it was like I just feel like the whole time, right, we're all thinking like, oh, these characters are not in Rogue One. What's gonna happen to them, right?
Yeah.
And they were so good about like not just outright killing them off, but like giving them like really appropriate endings, you know? Like, and so like hers, I was like,
Well, and of
"Ah."
course, just the one shot, we know exactly where she is, and we
Yeah,
know
we know
it's like,
exactly
you
on
know,
program, right?
yeah.
There is
And you
Some
know they buttoned
program.
down security
Yeah.
after the big escape.
right.
You know,
And-
actually,
Not getting
And
out.
Cord was instated. She
I
was
mean,
there after Pord, after the PORD.
on that note of
Uh.
like subtlety, I also love when Partagas, you know, he says, "I need a moment," and then it's just outside, and you hear the blaster shot, and the two stormtroopers like, you know, come to attention, and it's just the quick
Yeah,
hand gesture,
Finger
and
on the
he's just like,
trigger,
"Nope."
finger,
Yeah, he just
finger off
puts
trigger safety.
His hand out. It's like, hold. It's fine. We're gonna give him a
Because
moment.
he knows.
Yeah.
He knows exactly what
He's,
it is.
Yeah.
he's doing a little Harry Carey. Is it Harry Carey? Is that what it is? When you fall
Seppuku?
on your when you fall on
Seppuku?
seppuku. What's Harry Carey?
I think it's another way of saying
I
it.
think
yeah.
that's a bastardization
yeah.
of it.
But I think it's
Probably the
yeah.
white person way of saying it.
Seppuku.
It's like
he's committing seppuku right now.
like
Leave him
mooch
be.
ass, grassy ass.
My family in Wisconsin calls them tacos.
What the hell? What the hell? Oh my god!
Hey, we're gonna have some tacos.
Oh my god!
Call it Taco Bell, and that to them is Mexican food. Taco Bell.
Oh my god! That is the whitest thing I've heard in a very long time.
Lexi, did you fall down? What's going on here?
Taco Bell.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
this is where you buy cheese curds and left in
Yeah,
the
it's
gas
true.
station. You know,
And then
I mean, what are you gonna do?
about
That's more Minnesota.
okay,
than
that's true.
Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Speaking of Minnesota, also getting to watch B2 Emo play tag with his little droid friend in the big wheat fields.
You know what? We finally got to find out what happened to him.
Like, aw.
Good. I was so glad they.
B2 Emo is a good boy.
Yeah.
He may not be the father, but he's the father who stepped up.
You know
I
he's gonna
saw-
be completely devoted to Bixen and Cassian's
Yeah.
baby.
Oh,
he-
he
'cause
will
he-
be so much. He'll probably go chopper for that kid. I saw a couple of really good related memes. One of them was like, but do we know who's the father? And then it had pictures of all of Cassie and Andor's alter egos and names. Like, yeah, but maybe the dad's Ronnie Guja. Maybe it's Varian Sky.
Varian Sky.
My money's on Varian Sky. She thought he was very pretty.
Oh, hi, Kitty.
He's being
It's
loud. I don't know
easy.
why she's screaming at me.
But yeah, I like that we got follow up. I like that we got follow up with B2 Evo on Mina Rao. I would personally, I think that a way to not detract from Andor, but would still give people a little more Andor bump from some characters they love would be to do an animated miniseries with K2SO and B2 Emo, if they ever got him on the Rebel base. And it would
It's
be
like a little animated buddy comedy or something.
yeah,
I mean,
like
really,
or
don't
no,
you want K2SO and
or no,
Chopper?
the chopper. No, the chopper. No, Andy, you're right.
And they
it was
can go off
Chopper.
and
That was-
commit war
that
crimes
was what
together.
that was what I suggested, right? Like I think we're the same group, but I was like, I would watch B2SO, K2SO, and Chopper because that would be like C3PO and R2D2, but like secret agent murder style,
Yes.
and like it would
We
be
can't
like, all right,
ignore.
how many war crimes per episode can they commit? And I would
We
love
can't ignore
that.
that K2SO. We are Sparta, that dude either.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Kick.
Just straight
So
up.
yeah, I love that. I actually love that. It was just like going wild, and the meat shield. We talked about it already. The
People
meat
back
shield was
in. Guy off the bridge.
His like arms flailed.
yeah.
Like
Because he
how did they do
positioned
that?
it to block the he repositioned it to block the blaster. You know,
That
shots.
was probably like the most like visually impactful was using here as a human shield.
Yeah.
But aesthetically for the slapstick comedy, I think my favorite was him backhanding the first guard off of the
Are
Just
are you with
smack
us? No, smack.
no boom.
So I know we have to get going soon, but I wanted to. I guess maybe we can end on this. Andy is
Oh,
That-
good job to Alan Tudyk on stilts. Continue, Rodney.
yeah, the last scene, like Bix, you know,
Yeah.
the Bix of it all, right? Like, what did you guys think of that? And were you kind of? I personally, I'll go first. I personally thought it was amazing that he ended with that because, look, going back to the line, rebellions are built on hope.
Yeah.
So they're he literally showing that, right? That this is rebellion built on hope. And then it has even a deeper meaning is when you look back on on Luthen's talk to Lonnie, the famous monologue, he says, "I burn my life for a sunrise I'll never see." And she's there seeing this sunrise. You
Sunrise.
know, yeah. Go Tracy.
But before we even got there,
Yeah.
we saw the Perrin with Brunei, his
Yeah.
son-in-law's mom. Whatever happened to Skolden?
Is-
We see
Yeah.
Krennic watching
Wait,
the
isn't
Death
that
Star
technically
hole.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. The
We
other
see
the
Krennic watching the
mother-in-law.
Death Star hole, where at the beginning of Rogue One, he watches the dish be put into place. We see Saw Gerrera watch the Imperial Destroyer hovering over the city that's
Waiting
going to
for
be
death.
destroyed by the Death Star. We see
Mhm.
oh, and then we see Bix, right? And so that's kind of like the finale of like all these endings. But Bix we don't see in Rogue One. So like the all these ones before are directly leading into Rogue One and almost moment to moment, and they mirrored each other. So like the view
Actually, wait,
of Krennic watching the whole
one
is
more
the same view.
one more important image, Mon and Vel having coffee with everyone, right? And like for the first time seeing Mon Mothma, not with all the pomp and circumstance, but just,
You're
in
down.
civvies and
Comfortable.
relaxed and,
Oh, I know what it was going to be. It was the other senators that we see in Rogue One. They finally show up at the
Yeah.
show, right? We see the guy, I'm going to blank on his name. I wrote it down.
Jordan or
We see, so it's Draven, Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, Noor Jebel, and Terna Pomlo. The rebel leadership from Rogue One is finally all together in the same room. Like they finally managed to make their escapes. Right.
Oh, also the little bit with them just being exasperated after talking to Saw. I love that actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
and he's like, "You have no idea where I am," and they do, in fact, know where he is, and he's throwing a tantrum.
He's doing what they're talking about in Rogue One.
I mean,
Yeah.
this again, this is like something that I really like when I went and watched Rogue One. Like, there are a lot of things that are just like, I did enjoy Rogue One, but it was like, yeah, it's like it's a movie. It's only 2 hours. There's a lot of over the top thing, So like Saw Gerrera is really over the top, kind of crazy, and it feels like it's out of nowhere. Krennic is over the top villain, and it's like now we know it's because he's desperate because the entire ISB just crumbled around
His
him. It's
staff
either,
is-
and now we know that, that we've watched Saw, basically just completely crumble under the weight of constant fighting for 70 years, right? And,
Huffing the whole time.
huffing the whole time, huffing his way
Yeah.
through, huffing his sister.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Wait, can we just mention how all of this was triggered because somebody misdirected an email?
It's true. They were
Oh, yeah.
they were in signal chat.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
Yeah.
it was Signal Gate from a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
I mean,
the
this
Denver
is,
memes have been peak.
yeah. I mean, I love Krennic's lines like, if you're not a rebel spy, you missed your calling.
Yeah.
But that even goes back to like Nemec's manifesto where he says like it leaks,
Yeah.
it breaks, it leaks.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just
His
the
control is artificial.
control is like they have this tight fist and it takes so much effort to like keep it tight and this grip on this world that like everything breaks, everything starts leaking, and that's
tell you-
exactly it too.
You guys, that line, thank you, Rodney, because that line echoes Princess Leia from the original trilogy, or like when she's talking to Tarkin and she's like, the tighter you grip, the more
Yeah.
star systems will slip between your fingers. And that's always the control is brittle and artificial and unnatural.
So going back to Bix and the
chaos.
sunrise, going back to Bix and the sunrise, it's such a like that being the last shot. While we know that the last shot of Cassian is going to be that wave in the sunset, right, of the Death Star wave, like it just was a really nice balance
Bookend.
between the two.
Yeah.
It was a good bookend. Thank you. Yeah.
It was visual bookend, full circle, sad, happy, sad, bittersweet.
Yeah,
Oh,
so well done.
She's so calm for the first time in her life. She's so calm. And
She,
he's
Yeah.
like
she even like
mentally healthy.
pets the pats the baby and says it's gonna be okay.
You can pet a baby, it's fine. I
It's
pet
it's gonna be okay. Like he starts crying a little, and he's like, "It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be
Oh,
okay." And it's just
so this was another cool thing.
think
Apparently one of the prop masters was in one of the groups, and so he commented that Bix's pistol in season 2 is
Yeah.
the same gun that Cassian has in Rogue One.
because he
So
loses the hero prop at the end of
Yeah.
Andor, and so he takes her gun with him on his final mission.
which is like,
Yeah.
aw.
It was
great
the
little
Bonnie,
detail.
Bonnie and Clyde with her weapon. Yeah.
I
And now his
also
baby gets to see the sunrise.
I also just like, you know, again, for Tony Gilroy not being a Star Wars head, like when you put this all together, just the context of everything, right? You have like ISB has crumbled, Partagas has offed himself, Deidre is in jail, Lonnie is dead, Hertz is dead, Krennic gets killed at Scarif. The Empire has to cover up the Scarif destruction, and Darth Vader, you know, makes the claim that it's a mining accident. Um, the Death Star is destroyed in its first mission, which basically kills Tarkin and most of the Yularen, all the major governors and admirals that are like all on board the Death Star. It's like this has been a really crappy couple of weeks for the Empire, and it really kind of makes you, it recontextualizes when you get to Empire Strikes Back, where Darth Vader is now in front, right? Where like the Emperor has just unleashed Vader to command the entire Navy at this point, because all the command is gone, and all of his admirals just suck ass. That he's killing them one after another, right? Which is like, how did this tie in so well, right? Like this makes so much, it adds so much to the whole canon, and I find that amazing.
It even ties into Skeleton Crew because the pirate droid mentions about how Aldani is oh God, what did he say?
Yeah, it's
Like
a bog.
a
It's a
swamp, like a
sulfurous bog.
sulfurous bog. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
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 So
All right. I was
which,
supposed
of
to
course,
get off a
also-
half an hour ago, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's my anniversary today, and I'm like a half an hour late now.
happy
So,
anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. With that said, so any last thoughts before we sign off? I'm sure we're going to come back to this, right? I mean, probably
Yes.
Yes,
we'll
that's
come
my
back
last
and do a
thought.
whole
Chef's kiss.
retrospective on the whole.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already been doing some of it, but we can
I
do
think like next week we do a retrospective and a Rogue One talk.
and a Rogue One revisit. Yeah.
Revisit.
That, I mean, I already did, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna read it.
But happy
Um,
anniversary.
I went straight into Rogue One after I watched the finale.
So did we. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
raise
our
your hand if
logged
you
on.
guys all
We
went
did
to
a
straight.
hand raise.
Hey, we went straight into Rogue One.
I
Raise
did
your
it
hand.
both times I watched it. All right. So final thoughts.
Chef's
I
kiss.
have,
That's
I have
it.
none left.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. Well,
I
then,
have
Great.
so many.
you.
I have so many, but they're not going to come out coherently. So
So thank you for joining us here on the Geekish Network. Please follow the Geekish Network on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. Subscribe to the channel, and we will be releasing. We'll be back on Monday. Check all the schedules for all the other great shows throughout the week. And thanks to Flight Deck, to Rodney. Thanks again to Jason, who had to leave us early. And we are the Pod Squadron. Please check out all of our content on podsquadron.com. Like and subscribe. Follow us on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For podcast subscriptions, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast app. I am the Chinese Pirate at Chinese Pirate _ on all platforms.
I'm Tracy, the hot new girl on all the things, and I have my ring back on.
Pecos. Pecos.
Oh, Taco Bell.
Taco Bell.
Also, check out Beyond Forever
Watch this, I'll be so
Studios,
embarrassed.
Jason's, and Feral Geek. All wings return to base. Course laid in and prepared to make the jump to light speed on my mark. And remember, the truths we cling to depend on our own point of view. Only the Sith deal in absolutes. Good night.
Good night. Thank you all.
May the force be with you.